So you have been an
Yeah.
entrepreneur for over a decade, right?
Yeah.
Safe
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
I believe we started our businesses pretty much around the same time. So give the audience a rundown on kind of the timeline of your time and experience as an entrepreneur. So we're going to talk Rootcha first and then dive into PA grass-fed.
Okay.
So tell us about how you got into entrepreneurship, the businesses that you've started, and then I'll start hitting you with some questions.
Yeah. I'd say I got into entrepreneurship because I've always had an interest in solving issues and opportunities opened and others closed. Years back, I was in a motorcycle accident and it changed my trajectory of what I always wanted to do. I always loved sports cars. I always dreamt of opening a shop one day. So really, I think since a young age, I always dreamt of owning my own business. With back pain and rethinking of what I'm capable of doing now, I became interested in health and managing inflammation and chronic pain, and still having a love for commerce, I think, and problem solving. I got into dietary supplements with Rootcha back, I think 2016. So I guess it's about to be right on that 10-year mark. And
Congratulations.
yeah,
It's a
thank
big
you.
deal, man. Seriously.
Yeah,
Throughout this interview, I think I'm going to make you uncomfortable a few times because you don't really
it's
pat
perfect.
yourself on the back enough. So I'm happy to be there to do that for you. Diving back from my experience of your entrepreneurial journey,
Mhm.
obviously the accident that you got in was pretty terrible. You pretty much lost inches of your height and also years of your memory. It was like a really terrible accident. Obviously, from there, you had a couple choices. One was to figure out how to deal with your pain, right? I think we all
Mhm.
saw that time in life, like you had to adapt and evolve and to figure out what your career would be because obviously what you were doing in the car industry was very labor intensive. And so it's not like
Yes,
your back really could have dealt with that for
sustain
the long
that.
term.
Yeah,
Yeah. While still accepting at the same time, that was your passion. It's not like you got into
right,
cars because it was a need. Like you love that stuff. You had built
right,
Corvette ground up. Similar to my experience with soccer, I had a plan. Got my
right.
sixth concussion, had to give up on just like pretty much what I built my entire life towards, right? I had always intended on going professional. I was like, this is my plan. Nothing else is an
Yeah.
option. So I have always empathized with the reality that you just had to pivot in like your early
Hmm.
20s to just figure out like what is next for me.
Right.
Um, you basically at the time, if memory serves, were choosing between a car wash, investing in a car wash, or
Yeah.
going forward with Rucha.
Yeah.
Rucha,
Completely
which if
different
you
things.
but completely different things. However,
Yeah.
Rucha being the magnesium zinc supplement that we will speak about touched your life more because it was the research that you had done for the product was also for your back pain. So speak a
Yeah.
little bit about how passion met purpose and how Rucha began with that in mind.
Yeah. Rootcha's magnesium zinc complex was our first product that we came out with, and it didn't necessarily eliminate my pain or be the sole difference in my pain management, but it was a product that I knew was required for optimizing my health, and it could help a lot of others. And one of the biggest differences is how much it supports sleep. So recovering from any injury or any mental fatigue is sleep. It's like
It's
so
core.
classic. It really is probably that, and your overall nutrition is what's going to make the difference. But where Rucha was very similar with performance cars is that it's the small differences that ultimately give you the biggest win. And when I got into supplements, I couldn't separate that same mentality. Like I had to look at it the same way. And I always heard there was a lot of snake oil, and I didn't know
For
enough
sure.
about supplements. So I did the same type of deep dive, asking relentless questions and looking for proof to back claims up. And you have to be really careful with supplements and claims. So it everything supports something or promotes something. There's no cures, obviously, but that's not really the idea of supplements anyways. It's about helping with what modern society is depleting in your overall diet. So we're all nobody's really consuming their ideal diet anymore. It's very challenging. And filling in those gaps is what supplements help with. And then,
Which will be, by the way, not to cut you off, but just to
yeah.
almost highlight this, for anyone that's confused about how do you go from creating a supplement to getting into farming and meat, that
Hmm.
right there is the reason. You care about quite literally what goes in your body,
Right. Yeah.
and how it then actually becomes the fuel for your body, and in what ways can you make sure that what you're putting in your body is the healthiest thing possible. I think it's
Yeah.
important for people to understand that really is one of your not just passions, but one of the things that you care most about. That's why you do the research. I think
Yeah.
I think it would be really helpful for the audience to be aware of the behind the curtain of what it
Hmm.
is to actually start Rootcha.
Yeah.
People can sit there thinking, "Oh, I wanted to start a supplement company. I don't really know what that goes into. It's easy, right? You just brand a product and you stick it on Amazon." But that's
Hmm.
really not the case, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about, if you're cool with it, let's talk numbers just for the beginnings, right? I think it's important for people to be aware of, as someone who was watching from the side as I was going through my own entrepreneurial experience, I was always very taken back by the amount of money necessary to build the product. And I
Right.
would give you kudos to say you spent more to do it right so that you weren't peddling snake oil.
Right.
You really spent extra money to make sure that the brand correlated to your value set. And
Right. You lived
in
up
many
to it.
ways, sometimes at your own detriment, but at the end of the day, you knew what you were making and you wanted to
Yeah.
make something that you believed in so that you could sell it. So give me a
Right.
little kind of PEMDAS of what the costs were and what obstacles you ran into to get the first batch of Rucha out to market.
Yeah. So one of the first issues and major costs was the finding a contract manufacturer that could produce the product for us and source it from reliable places. So we knew that it would pass third party testing. And we knew that they were actually going to complete the product, the encapsulation process, without shorting us or shorting the customer. And that was a lot easier said than done. There's a lot of contract manufacturers in the United States, and they have certifications and they say they're FDA registered, and that may be true. And I think most of them is true, but that doesn't mean that they're living up to the standard at all time versus
Of
when they're
course.
just being audited.
Yeah.
And so a good example was I drove all the way up to Long Island to talk to a company that I felt decently good about. They gave me a fair price, and I just wanted to see the facility. I want to make sure they were who they said they were. And I got a very just mediocre tour of their facility. They were actually getting audited by the FDA on a random audit when I was there, so I couldn't see everything. And just their overall demeanor of, oh, don't worry about the stability testing. We'll put a 2-year expiration date on it. We don't actually need to do the process, which I already knew was against the law. This isn't a good fit, but I'm just going to learn here as much as I can. I just drove all the way up here. And they ended up getting shut down by the FDA because even though they were already registered and third party certified, they ended up not meeting the mark and they ended up getting shut down. And since then, I've seen them open up other businesses and they reach out, and it's just not a good fit. But that was a lot of time and money invested just to figure out who to spend money with. That's not obviously the biggest lump sum, but time is passing. And I've reached out to some other companies, and either they are capable of producing this product, but you're too small. They want you to place $1 million order right out the gate, and it's just not functional. So I ended up finding a place that I stuck with out in California, but again, had to buy tickets, how to fly out there, how to stay a few days. I toured both of their facilities and was really happy with them. We ended up
Yeah, I
working with
remember
them
that.
for many years, and every third party test was just as good as their internal test, which was nice. They would always test internally with the finished product, and I would get that certificate of analysis. So just I'll get to the bigger numbers of spending, but when you're not even ready to pursue to actually buying the product. You're just trying to figure out who can make this and who can actually do what they say they can do. You end up spending thousands and wasting time is thousands too. So
Yeah.
it's really that was a really big challenge, and I was very lucky and grateful to settle with the company that I settled with. All the contract manufacturers want you to order at least a 500,000 capsules on your first order. And again, that's assuming you're creating a custom product here. There's a lot of companies that was like, we'll just do some white label products they've already made and they'll just put your brand on there. And that's all legal, but that's also not, it's usually generic forms of supplements or the fillers. The flow agents are generic or harmful. 500,000 capsules is about 2,083 bottles, I want to say, of 120 count bottles. And the first order could be depending on what product you're making, but it could be like $30,000, and that's the smallest.
Easily, right? There were
Yeah,
times where you were spending like 200 grand per flip capsule.
of larger of batches as we grew.
Yeah.
But it just when you're starting something and you have zero customers, it's a really big pill. And I was
Pun intended.
younger then. Yeah, seriously, gosh, it's very nerve-wracking to spend that kind of money and think you like other people are going to enjoy this as much as I enjoy this and see the value in
And
it.
to be fair,
And
too, you guys did a ton of research on the amount of money that a lot of these supplement companies were making. And
yeah,
that was part of what made you guys think, yo, there's diamonds here. You guys did a lot of SWOT analysis and research that went into not just the magnesium zinc as your staple product, the
the
logo,
industry
the
as a whole.
branding,
Yeah.
getting the glass bottle instead of a plastic bottle because of your value set. I was always impressed by how meticulous you were going into the
Hmm.
process, not having done it before, right? Entrepreneurship is betting on yourself, right? You guys bet substantial amounts of money to say, hey, we're going to do this because we believe in it, not just for ourselves, but we believe in this product. We believe in our ability
Hmm.
to sell this. And I think that's super impressive. Obviously, any business that survived COVID, props. Like, I really think that in and of
Yeah.
itself is impressive
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
starting a business 10 years ago, now the new thing that everyone has to adapt and adjust to is AI, right? Like figuring out
Right.
how to survive with the ebbing and flowing of the constantly shifting economy ever since COVID. And I do think, interestingly enough, you guys had a bit of a business surge during COVID because people
Hmm.
were looking for supplements to protect their immune system. That actually allowed you to strengthen your revenue at a time where a
Hmm.
lot of people were scrambling to figure out what to
Yeah.
do. There's
And
times where you guys would
we
be making $500,000 a year, correct? The revenue from the product.
revenue. Yeah. Yeah. The
That's amazing.
COVID era was good from a revenue perspective, but we were then dealing with the supply issue that everyone was dealing with. We couldn't sell something that people wanted because
Right.
we couldn't fulfill it quick enough. We were grateful to have that problem, but that was a wild logistical issue of trying to switch suppliers of raw materials that still have the same standards and then finding them within a short amount of time. It was mental jumping jacks to get that done and keep, as you said, keep the brand values where they're supposed to be.
The balancing of a business is almost like having a faucet on a glass of water and doing your best to sip the glass of water so that it's always full, but not spilling over.
Yeah,
Like that
right.
constant
Just
balance of, I need to have as many orders as possible, but I also need to fulfill the orders because something that people might not know that I only learned through your experience was Amazon really punishes you
yes.
if you do not have product to fulfill orders. And you guys went through that experience when we were in Italy. It was almost just the growing pains of having too many orders that it ends up Amazon punishes you and basically drops your ranking. Do you want to dive into kind
Mhm.
of what's the experience of a seller when you don't have enough product to fulfill orders? What does Amazon do?
The best thing that you can do is actually close the listing because the longer you're just listed as out of stock, the lower your sales ranking on Amazon. Each product has an actual number sales ranking. It's a public number that you can view, and it drops like a stone. The problem is when you come back in stock, the algorithm has decided you're not reliable. We're not going to show you organically. You can still keep paying for ads, but we're not going to show you organically to all these customers that you were serving. And so then you just end up spending thousands of dollars just to get back up to not even where you were,
Right.
honestly. And then you get into the whole issue where other sellers overcome that issue by paying for fake reviews,
For sure.
and that's just it's the same moral line that we're
Not
with
willing to cross.
Rootcha. I
Yeah,
just can't do that. So
totally.
not playing that game has been punishment in itself, and it is tough to see others win by
Being unethical.
cheating and being unethical, but we do have a lot of really loyal customers, and the amount of customers that we have that are 4 or 5 years old and have ordered multiple times a year is pretty wild because when anytime we go to other entrepreneur like seminars or I read articles online that it's all about how can you keep a customer for a year because that'd be crazy to keep them for a year. In 2 years
Right.
that's a fantastic customer. And I have like 7, 8 year old customers that
Yeah.
are still 4 years is standard.
I think that it directly correlated to you not cutting corners. I
Yeah.
think 100%. I've said this to other entrepreneurs that I've interviewed, but it's clear when you get Rucha, when you get the product, that you don't cut
Hmm.
corners. As much as it is more expensive in the front end, you do maintain customers and remove attrition on the back end. The one
Hmm.
thing I would try to add here as a call to action for anyone watching this that does want to order Rucha from yourself, it'd be actually order it from the website rather than
Hmm.
Amazon. I think that's an important note to make as well. The profit
Yeah.
margins on an Amazon sale versus buying directly
Are
from you guys it's like day and night, right?
yes, yeah. And we are trying to move away from Amazon in the sense that we're not going to reduce the sales, but
Right.
we're trying to build up our website because it's so cutthroat on Amazon and to rely on them and they just to turn off the faucet, it's very challenging as a small business.
And they can change rules overnight that aren't even
Yeah.
current rules. I also remember that happened to you guys where it was just like, oh, they
Mhm.
just decided something changed and you were just throttled as a business.
Yeah.
For anyone looking to support and also who would want this supplement in general, definitely go to Rootcha.com and order
Yes.
directly. It's a better, I believe there's like a better discount overall for the customer and more money for you as the owner as well, right? How does that work?
If you subscribed, it's actually just it's pennies more than if you were to buy on Amazon.
Okay.
Unfortunately, another ruthless
Shipping.
thing with Amazon is they scan the whole web. And if you're 1 cent cheaper somewhere else, they'll also hammer your listing. So
Crazy.
they're just punishing small business because I would rather do that. I would rather have it cheaper on our website and slightly more on Amazon. And that would also help offset the Amazon margin, but they detect it and they will shut your listing down from a traffic point of view. It'll still exist, but it won't get sales because it won't get traffic. And
It's
so I
crazy how
just,
much they've bottlenecked most small businesses' ability to only sell through them. That's why they are as
yeah,
big as they are. Kudos to
right.
their like cutthroat savviness, but it is a crazy world to be a seller on Amazon.
It is.
And I would
It's a
say
ruthless place.
using that actually as our transition, because I want to give time to both your businesses. That's part of the reason why you decided to make another business, right? Like one that you could have more control in with other facets of business. It's always good to
Mhm.
diversify, right? Not have all your
Right.
eggs in one basket. PA grass fed is an example of you diversifying, but also remaining entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Let's speak a little bit about the beginnings of PA grass fed and what its overall brand mission is, and who are your customers for PA grass fed?
Yeah. PA Grassfed connects people directly with exceptional grass-fed beef from small Pennsylvania farms. And we're a co-op of PA farms. And we're basically competing against big ag in a way where it's more localized, small batch, where your meat's coming from, in the sense that it's coming from Pennsylvania. We only have a few farms within the co-op right now, but it's there's a lot of community in it. If you buy a ground beef, even if it's grass-fed from Wegmans or Whole Foods or wherever you're shopping, Giant, that pound of ground beef could have 100 different steer in it because so many animals are being processed at once. It's not you're just getting a blend of a
Like
bunch of different
like a big
animals.
hot
Yeah,
dog, essentially.
yeah, exactly. A big hot dog. At most, we would have two steer in one. It's almost exclusively a single animal when it comes to ground beef. And obviously the steaks, you're all getting one animal, but we the idea was if we don't pinch farmers, what just naturally happens, and we give farmers a fair price, and there's only a slight markup, and then we ship locally the most. I'm trying to focus around areas where we can hire a driver and do a free delivery within 25 miles of Solderton, Pennsylvania. We do ship up in the Northeast. We offer the best product at the best value possible. It is a more expensive product, but it's also the flavor, the taste, the color of the beef is literally different. It's more of a dark wine color than that bright red that you see at the store, which I think is a combination of a few things, but a lot of it's Pennsylvania's terroir, that the type of grass that Pennsylvania has. The animals are grazing their whole life. In the winter time, they're consuming hay that was baled in Pennsylvania, so it's grass from beginning to the end. There's no grain finish, which is very common, where a steer can be labeled as grass fed, but the last 6 weeks of their life, they get a bunch of corn and soy and they gain hundreds of
Beef
pounds.
them up. Yeah.
Yeah, to beef them up. But then you're ruining the whole concept of it's the health of the animal. You're eating a healthy animal.
So I think that's
Um,
another place where I would just highlight it's you don't cut corners to make extra dollars.
yeah,
Unfortunately, in America, in worldwide, but like especially in
right.
America, due to capitalism, due to the economy the way it is, inflation, etc., most businesses, in order to survive, have to do these unethical things.
Yeah,
I applaud you for not. And I can personally attest to the fact that I do prefer the taste with the PA grass fed. Obviously, got
mhm.
an opportunity to have it recently at the Yawa magazine event. And
Yes.
also, I got a filet from you. I don't eat a lot of red meat, obviously. When I do, I try to make sure that it's going to be higher quality.
Yeah.
So I would say definitely the taste is different. And also, there's something to be said about grass fed. If you're looking for grass fed and you want real grass fed, do the extra research to make sure that it is, right?
Yeah.
With both businesses that you've started, there's been a ton of like eye-opening experiences for you where you've realized behind the curtain there's a lot of ugly things that happen.
Yes.
And it's nice that you've at least tried to create companies that you would want to be a customer of. I think
Right.
that's
Yeah.
how I would label you as an entrepreneur is you're not going to sell something you wouldn't buy from the other side of the counter.
And
And I think that can actually be an Achilles heel, while simultaneously, one of the biggest things I respect about you as a business owner is you're not
mm.
going to push something that you don't think your consumer would benefit from. And
And
so,
that makes scaling very challenging. And I'm learning to figure how to scale the right way while keeping the standards. But yeah, it's definitely been a very hard path to grow businesses with being so hard lined on certain ethics or morals or however you want to call it.
and when it comes to scale, I know with Rootcha you did an early stage investment round. I was proud to be a part of one of the early stages. And in the future, do you see yourself doing investment rounds again with Rootcha or with PA Grassfed? Or once again, is it hard when you know how the business needs to be done in the way that you feel that is important and ethical to bring
Mhm.
on investors? Like, where do you stand?
Yeah, it's really hard to bring on investors, especially because most investors are looking for those hyper scalable businesses and they want these massive margins. And we don't have massive margins, which sometimes they just see that as there's not enough meat on the bone. I personally would be okay with investors that also wanted to have their hand in the business because they believed in it. They could help with a certain aspect that it's more about expanding the team than the financial side because as you bootstrap a business, it's brutal financially, but there does, after a few years and you start to prove something, you are able to get some small loans and then from the bank, and then you figure out how to optimize the best you can. But usually goes right towards more product and it's not necessarily more employees. I'm wearing many hats and it's very hard to specialize in any certain task. If I saw an opportunity or if I met somebody that was wanted to invest in a big way, but they also wanted to make this part of their career, I would say that's a very rare type of investor.
You
And
would only entertain an investor partner that had the
yeah,
same vision as you, which is tough, obviously,
yeah,
but
it's
it's
almost
still
non-existent, but
possible. Yeah,
yeah,
but it is possible. And it's one of those things where I would say I look at both your businesses as, especially with this new generation. I don't know if you're seeing the statistics, like the generation under millennials are drinking far less alcohol
right,
than
yeah,
any
they're
other
starting to care
generation.
about their health more.
I do think that we are entering a stage where enough people have enough awareness. Same thing with like cigarettes back in the day, right? As the
Hmm.
generations learn more and more about the impact of these decisions that you make and the health risks that come
Hmm.
alongside them, they change their buying habits. I think
Right.
that generation underneath ours and the generations to come will be more interested in supplements and actually grass-fed beef or
Hmm.
healthier food options. So I
Yeah,
do think you're on the precipice of growth. I think it's just,
yeah,
once again, it's just tough when you're footing all the bills, wearing a lot of hats, and not cutting corners. I
right.
think that's been occasionally difficult for your business, but I do think you come out on the other side winning just because at the end of the day, the cream of the crop does rise to the top and your
Hmm.
product is better, in my
Yeah,
opinion, than your competitor products. So I think
yeah,
a lot of really what it is just getting the word out
yeah,
about both your businesses without having to go too far into your pocket to do
right.
that. The other balancing act of like, how do you market the product without spending all of your money because you need to spend a lot of the money on product. So in
Yeah,
both
you're
businesses.
right. For Rootcha, we do have a plan for 2026 where we want to try and incorporate the customer's voice a little bit more. Now that people understand our processes and our standards, we have plans to add a survey of sorts on the website where customers could come and visit and say, "Hey, I'm really looking for a creatine. I'm really looking for a vitamin D3. I'm really looking for whatever they're looking for." And to to start counting how many customers are looking for the same product and having that establish our next product moving
Totally.
forward and
I think that's really
collecting
smart.
those emails and being able to reach out. And then I think if the customers know that we're keeping the Rucha standard, but we're producing a popular loved product, they can get a certain discount if they are one of the
I agree.
first investors. And I think making the customers the first investors by giving them a say and giving them something they can't find elsewhere as far as transparency and quality,
I think that's smart
then
because that's what you would have
it's
loved to have when you started Rucha, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
that you're essentially saying to these people that have been customers since the jump, hey,
yeah,
you've supported us. Is there anything out there that you also feel that would be important for you to have in your day-to-day vitamin routine?
yeah. What else is missing? PA grass-fed was great because there's so much community and farmers. Farmers are they're always the nicest people and they are always looking to help one another and and the type of customers that you get actual at the actual farm for the farm stores, which I should say you should always consider buying from your local farm directly, not just for PA grass fed, stopping by and seeing what they have because that's a huge deal for them. But that community aspect made me realize that I'm really not hitting that mark on Rucha, doing all the right things and producing a product the best I can, but it still doesn't feel, I don't think the customers feel connected with it enough. And I think having that type of voting system on what the next product could be, like that could be a way where people feel a little bit more connected. Like they're part of the reason why we came
Yeah.
out with the next product.
Totally. I think it's also important. I've said this to you for a while now, but I'm happy that you're doing it. I think it's important that you step forward
Yeah,
and market, not market yourself in a vanity standpoint, but market your passions. Market the fact that you really care about this product. That's why you created it. You're not just doing this to cut corners and make as much money as possible and pump and dump. The goal
right,
is to
right.
do something that you believe in and create a
Hmm.
product that actually helps your consumers. And I think it's important that you step forward and make that clear. You've put countless hours of effort into bootstrapping this to be what it's become, right? A business
Hmm.
that has revenue generation or a product, just Rucha talking here, making $500,000 a year is no small feat. And obviously, there's a lot of money that goes into it each year, but that's a big deal. And that's something you should pat yourself in the back for. Not a lot of people have the juice, time, or bandwidth to do the research necessary to get that to where it is. I think PA grass-fed is an awesome opportunity for you to find a community that would be buyers of both products. I think accidentally and purposefully, that's a really nice win that the communities that you build on the left or the right side are the same demographic that would likely buy both products because they're health oriented people
Mm.
that would spend extra to make sure that what they, like you, are putting in their body is as high quality as possible with the
Yeah,
most benefits as possible. That's the audience that you're trying to reach on both sides. And I
right.
think that's what's
That's true.
really cool as you've built PA grass fed to see like the work done on one grows the other and informs
Right.
the other, if not grows it occasionally. One lesson you learn on PA grass fed about how to build a community directly informs how to do so on Rucha. I
Right.
always find, especially with us having outside the box, Yawa magazine and the books and stuff, one lesson learned, and same thing with a lot of our clients. So as I watch them
Mm.
learn lessons, it also gives me the itch of, oh my God,
I could apply that.
I could
Yeah.
apply that. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of actually the most enjoyable parts of entrepreneurship is evolution, adaptation,
And when something clicks, when you just get that breakthrough, and
the aha moment.
it's very,
And
yeah,
and it's almost like you would think that just the singular moment of the creation of the product is the aha moment, but they actually
it's
come like every other month or every 6 months or every year
yeah,
occasionally where you're like, this is what I need to do to adjust. This is what I need to
and
do
new.
for success. And I find that you don't, like I said at the beginning of this, you don't give yourself enough credit. You are a successful business owner and you're doing it the right way. And I think I hope that anyone who sees this does look to you to say, hey, I'm looking to create my own business. Can you help me because you've had success? Or also looks at this to say, hey, I'd love to buy your product because you care.
Yeah,
And I think to me, that's been clear for the past decade. But I don't think enough people know how much time and energy and money that you put in to do it. And I think
right.
once enough people realize that, your loyal customer base will grow with your local community first. Then the word of mouth will do some of the marketing
Expand
rather than
from
you just
there.
have to pump it into Amazon all the time.
Yeah.
You have these surface connections with consumers who have no idea who Shane Lesky is. They're
hmm
just finding this product on Amazon and have no idea where this magnesium zinc compared to this magnesium zinc.
Yeah.
They don't know
And
the
who to try.
effort. They don't know the other people might have just used that other company that was like, we'll just give you this expiration date. So
Right.
obviously Rootcha.com and then pagrassfed.com.
Yep. Yeah, those are the two best places. And if you want to buy Root on Amazon, that's totally fine too. You can search the keyword mag zinc and find us there, or you can actually just type in the name Rucha and it should come right up at the top.
And for
So
PA grass fed, people have the opportunity to get monthly boxes from you guys, right?
yeah, we do monthly, we do bi-weekly, and every 6 weeks. And then we also have one-time orders are also available. And we even do quarters and half steers or whole steers if you want that too. But within 25 miles of Southern Pennsylvania, we do free shipping. And outside of there, we can ship. It's just the cost is calculated at checkout.
Perfect.
You know.
And if they, let's say, are not currently going to buy but do want to support, what are your
Mhm.
social channels for both products?
PA grass feds, IG is PA underscore grass fed, and Rucha's is just Rucha, I think. Yeah, as
Yep.
ROTCHA for IG
ROO.
and
Yeah, yeah, perfect.
for Facebook and for Instagram.
Awesome, man. And I would just ask, I try to ask everyone this at the end. What would you say to any aspiring entrepreneur looking to build a product and sell it on either Amazon or Shopify? What wisdom would you have for them or piece of advice would you give them going into it?
I would say to figure out your brand is needs to be based around the problem that you're solving. It needs to give the same feeling of the problem that you're solving. And your biggest issue is going to be getting out in front of customers. Even if you do a fantastic product, you should do the opposite of what I did for many years, and you should probably promote yourself on your own personal pages and start with that friends and family outreach and continue from there. The more networking that you can do is the better. That's really been the bottleneck for both of the companies because I'm a very private person and it's very just difficult for me to put myself out there. I like to be behind the scenes working, but ultimately that's the crux in the business model when you don't have millions of dollars to put on advertising. And let's face it, that's most of us. So the best thing you can do is share your mission, follow that standard relentlessly, and just network as much as you can. Reach out to friends and family, and just it's a nonstop networking, really, and self promotion for the the cheapest, most affordable way you can do it, really.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like you only learn these lessons by being in the deep end, right?
Yeah,
Entrepreneurship is just jumping in the deep end and then figuring out how to swim. So there is definitely times where you're underwater,
right.
just shaking your arms. We've all been there. But
Most
yeah,
of
I
it.
do think I just want to give you credit and props for the work that you've put in this far and excited to see where both businesses are another 10 years from now.